The Tight Five.
The Tight Five. This is a regular feature that we do on iOS. It's only sport, 5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell goes ding, we move quickly on to the next topic. The whole show today dedicated to what happened Saturday night in Paris, Sunday morning, New Zealand time. On the back of a landslide election result, don't know whether that was as unexpected as the All Blacks' performance was. Just an amazing effort against Ireland, something that, well, we were all hoping, but who honestly saw coming? We're going to talk about the last 39,000 phases and the All Blacks' staunch defence for the last 4 minutes. Pivotal moments in the match. Ian Foster and what it must mean to him. Because if that match had have been lost, that was him gone. And talk about legacy. What on earth would have been the impression that he left with All Black fans after his tenure if we had not won that game? For Lachlan, that was his first ever live Rugby World Cup match. So we're going to talk about just the in-stadium experience, just being there, feeling that, and obviously turning our attention now to Argentina, which is a completely different mindset approaching that game than the quarterfinal against Ireland. The last stanza, those phases, Loch, and where we were sitting, we were right up in the gods, and we had an amazing view. So the whole pitch is in front of you. And it's important just to explain this, because when you get to see it on TV, you only get where the cameras are focusing. And so you don't get the whole expanse that you get when you're actually in the stadium, where you can see all the individual chess pieces and where all the players are. And it's quite significant, because what it does is it explains to you why certain things happen and why certain things don't happen. So a long-winded way of saying, when we got to that final stanza, Ireland have got the ball. They need a try. It's all about the All Blacks' defence. And look, even though there were the 36 or 38 or 39 or however many phases it was, Ian Foster explained it also, and you'll hear this in the press conference, it was incredibly nerve-wracking. It was incredibly intense and tense, because one mistake, and Ireland could have turned the ball over. We won the game. One mistake on the other end, we could have given away another penalty. They would have got another liner, and they would have gone again. But you kind of, now you think about it, you get the feeling that I think the All Blacks were more in control of that than the Irish were.
Yep, I'd agree with that. They were. It didn't feel like it, but in the sense that the feeling I got for most of the game, and this made me incredibly nervous at the end, aside from the fact of how tight it was, and Ireland were slowly but surely edging their way forward and getting closer and closer to our line, was when we worked through our phases when we had the ball. We would just pound it forward, maybe get pushed back a bit. We didn't find gaps in their defence that easily, at least closer to the breakdown, whereas it felt like they did. It felt like that they could actually pick apart our defence. So when it got to that final 6 or 7 minutes, however long it was, where Ireland had the ball and we had to defend for our lives, as they moved forward closer to the line, I just thought, it just felt every time they really threw the ball around and tried to break through, at least in the first half, they did, and I just was like, I can't watch this, I can't bear this, because I just think they're going to score. And if I can make it a little bit personal, look, I've been through this with 2 other teams of mine this year. The Eagles in the Super Bowl lost a lead and lost the game, heartbreaking way to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Brisbane Broncos, up by 16, heartbreaking, just gutting, you're sitting there just, contemplating why you're doing this, why you support your teams, and I stood there and I thought, great, it's going to happen for the 3rd time, isn't it? My team is going to lose, and they're going to lose in such a heartbreaking way. But look, the one thing that we've talked about that we've wanted so much from this team this year is just heart and spirit and guts, and it's something that I've never really felt we really have when it comes down to it. And that's all that last 7 minutes was last night. Unbelievable character. When you think about how just tired and worn out the guys are, the guys who started and played the entire game, like Sam Kane out there to the
unbelievable
performance. I think Kane I think was subbed before the end, but yeah, unbelievable performance. Artie Savia, Scott Barrett, I'm pretty sure played the entirety of that game. I think just the fact that these guys are out there and at the very end still have the energy and the focus, because when you're that tired, I would think physically, you're mentally tired as well, surely. Just to be able to hang on, make smart decisions defensively, tackle, and when you get to the breakdown, because they've really reffed the breakdown a lot more strictly at this World Cup, where you can't have your hand on the ground when you try and take the ball, even when you've got your hands on the ball, if your fingers are touching the ground as you're doing it, then that's deemed hands in the ruck and a penalty. So just to have that focus and that determination at the end is just unbelievable, and to hold Ireland out was that final 7 minutes, a perfect representation of the entire match, I thought.
Hey, first time ever that you've been at a Rugby World Cup match, and I was going to say you picked that one to go to. I mean, this one got picked for us because we've got the privilege of being here. That stadium, that occasion, that amount of people, that sea of green. It was an away match for us All Blacks.
Oh,
there's fans. There's no question about that. Right next to us, and when I say right next to us, reach your arm out. I'm touching Irish fans there, right? Mm. When at one stage they were reaching over to and banging on our table when they were coming back, and they were in our ears. They were yelling. I mean, it was all good. It was all good crack. But at the same time, just walk us through that part of it, because you've got to put your soul, you've got to put your heart out there on occasions like this. And Miles will be listening, and he'll be going, "You're boring us," but he understands as well, because as a just a dedicated, diehard fan, he knows what it's like to be in stadiums all over the world watching his teams play, and you have to be prepared to lose to win. And that means you have to have your heart broken, or as Miles puts it, you got to get a kick right in the ghoulies, son. And that's so to go through that. To go through that, for you, what was that like? Because I've been to a couple of these before.
Well, first World Cup, not a bad first World Cup match for me to go to. I've been to about 5 or 6 All Blacks tests outside of this game. It was like being in my lounge, Sunday and Monday mornings watching Liverpool, Friday nights watching the Broncos, watching the Eagles, watching the Lakers. That just exuberant, ridiculous passion and the highs and the lows of it when you're watching a tight game. And then just doing it in a sea of, as you say, green and 80-something, was 78,000, I think there was in attendance at an 80,000-seater stadium. But there's also I thought about this at one point, there's actually a bit of a danger with it. Because if you give it, because I like to give a bit of jip to people and whatnot, I sort of stayed a bit quiet. But because when we got out to that 30-0 lead, I was just like, here we go, we've got the game, we're all in control, we're on our way, and it's very easy to, as you say, the fans next to you, to really start to give it to them and go, what's the score? And then you've got the danger of them coming back and them doing the same to you. And they've had a few drinks, and like us, they're really passionate sports fans. You never know, things could get a bit hairy at some point. So that's always, I thought about that at one point, and I thought this could be a little bit dangerous. But look, the best atmosphere I've ever seen was the NRL Grand Final in 2015, with the most gutting end. And that game last night was as good, if not better, just because of this. I mean, during the hukka, the singing of the Irish fans, you couldn't hear a
single word, not a word.
Nothing of the hukka, couldn't hear it. And they've got mics right there by them, And it was, I've just never seen such, I don't know what the word is, but almost like there was a theatric about it all. There was a musical element to it all, just the way they were singing, how emotional they all were, pumping up the crowd, pumping up each other. Europe, the UK and Europe do sport so much better than us. As you've said during the week, we like to sit there and just complain about how things aren't going as well as they could. But I've never ever witnessed anything like it. And just the Irish fans were incredible, and the guys next to us were a lot of fun as well, weren't they? So first World Cup match ever, and it says know that there's people out there saying that's one of the greatest tests they've, not just All Blacks performances, not just All Blacks wins or whatever, just test matches full stop they've ever seen. It's pretty awesome.
Ian Foster, when he came into the presser and you could see the smile on his face and everything else, here's a guy that has copped it like a chook, and this has been going on for a couple of years now in New Zealand. He's worn it. But he's always behaved with, I think, grace and dignity about it. There's a couple of times he's gone public when all the Scott Robertson stuff was happening. And if you remember what he was saying at the time was just simply that, I want to speak about this because I want the door shut on this, because we want the focus to be on our players and the fact we're going to a Rugby World Cup. He's never spat the dummy. He had every reason and right to go into that room, yesterday as a human being, as a man, and stick his finger up to a few people who've given it to. But nothing like that. He was just, again, very humble about it, deflecting all the praise to his players and his coaching staff and all of that kind of stuff. I just thought, the guy, to me, deserved that last night as much as everyone deserved it, as much as we deserve it as fans, as much as the players deserve it. And that I don't know how this World Cup is going to end for Ian Foster, but whatever. I just hope that people remember that game last night could have been the end of his career. And what an ignominious end to his career. As I said during the week, that statistically would have been the worst All Black side that we'd ever sent to a Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
And they won it. And he has to get given the credit and the praise for the tactics and for getting his team in that mindset to play that game last night.
Yeah, and I mean, he, like every assistant coach, like every player, when it's winning or losing, needs to be criticised and praised. Because everyone's part of the team. It's not one man who's totally responsible for this or that or that. So I hope he is back home getting the praise that he deserves. And I think, and you were talking, I think, a fan last night who said this, that they weren't a big Fozzie fan, and they didn't agree with some of his choices and whatnot, but at the end of the day, he won. He's the winner. You know, the All Blacks are the winners. Say what you like about form over the last 4 years, say what you like about how average we've been, the turmoil, really the people with knives hanging around Ian Foster, people in the media, people within NZR, our fans, whoever it is, people just calling for his head and the constant spouting that Razor would do better. Not to be disrespectful to Razor and say he wouldn't, but just saying all that stuff and having all that chirping going on for him, as you say, just to be respectful, steady, stand his ground when he's needed to, but not do it in a dickhead manner.
No.
Just been really, really,
classy
really
dude,
mature, classy
dude. And
he's sitting there last night and he sits down, he's just got this nice big smile on his face, and there was a reporter who asked him, where does this rank amongst the wins? And he just, he sat there and said, you know the answer to that. It's a special day, I'm very happy. And he sat back and he just looked really relaxed. He had a bit of almost, it was a smuggish smile, if that makes sense. He just said, I'm very happy.
He deserved it at that time.
Yeah.
He deserved it at the time. Now we go again. And we have Argentina as an opponent in the semi-final. And the build-up to this during the week, which we're going to bring you people, is the mindset is... it could not be a 180 that Tony Hawk wouldn't pull.
Can I quickly say one thing? Last year, so this quarterfinal, the spirit and the heart of it and the winning from a position at least we and a lot of probably other Kiwi fans didn't think they could win, very similar to the win over South Africa and Johannesburg last year.
Absolutely.
Who did we play 2 weeks later in Christchurch? Argentina. And it was the flattest feeling in the world.
Oh my God, it was.
Yeah.
And we went into that game, and I never thought for a second...
we thought, here we go, we're back. The All Blacks are back.
The All Blacks are back. And remember that game, we couldn't actually stick a pass. We couldn't actually break a tackle. We were just
that's a good reminder. Flat. I know.
It's a really good
and
reminder.
Argentina turned up, played brilliant. Defensively was superb. The kicking game was incredible.
And
they played basics really well.
We had just got... I think... You're right. I hadn't even considered this. We were on that absolute mountainous high. Well, certainly as fans we were thinking, okay, right, all the bollocks after losing to Ireland. That Nelspruit performance, which was just so desperately weak and insipid from the All Blacks. We were down to 14 and joke. Finally, with our backs against the wall, we played like All Blacks. I think, look, the parallels are obvious, right? Because that's what last night was. What a great warning, though. Because building up to this week, I think that every single person who knows anything about rugby has already ticked us into the final, apart from Michael Cheika and the Argentinian team. So this isn't a gimme game because everything is a foot trip. And, we've shown, as you say, in the last few years that we can lose games that we just are never meant to lose.
We're superb one week and then the next week we're just average.
Look, and I think you're right. The warning shot that was fired by them last year is going to be really significant. Because if we played Argentina 10 times, we're going to win 9, no disrespect, 8 or 9 of those games, right? But it's that one game.
Yeah.
And this is a team that has experience playing semi-finals. It was a long time ago. But they've also timed their run quite nicely. They played a shocker against England in the first game. But again, I keep referencing the football last year, where Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia and Qatar in their first game. You've got to build nicely through this tournament. That's why I'm worried about England as well. Actually, by the time I won't say that because we won't know the result, will we? The result will have been known by the time we go. Okay. So let's just keep that in mind, and I'm reminding myself as much as anyone else as we build up to this game that there's no such thing as a rubber stamp job in this. But I think that, what the mindset and mood change is that the All Blacks are back and we have something now, and every other team is going to be very, very wary of us because this is what they were all hoping wouldn't happen. beware of us now.
The scrum, though, critical, the platform for the All Blacks. Can they get the platform right?
Devlin.
You've got to love sport.
The platform.